Hi there, Jen Russell here. Today I'm going to be going over a drill, and it's the most kind of fundamental drill that I go through for both assessment and for most everyone as part of a corrective exercise strategy. It's called the supine 90-90 position, and not coincidentally, it is the position that your baby is going to spend the first 3 months of their life mastering before his or her brain gives them permission to start moving their limbs. So it's kind of a beautiful synergy for you as a postpartum mama to come back to that position and start trying to reconnect to your muscles of intrinsic core stability. These are the muscles and tissues that help you to stabilize your spine and to breathe well. And there in pregnancy is inevitably a big change in those muscles and tissues. And so this position, whatever kind of birth you had, you can start working on this drill even in the hospital, or if you're 6 months postpartum, that's fine too. It's never too early or too late. But you might need to adjust how you do this drill depending on what kind of birth you had, what kind of healing your body is still trying to accomplish. So it's called supine because you're going to be on your back, 90-90 because your knees and your hips are both going to be bent at 90 degrees. If you are healing from a C-section or really traumatic tearing that makes getting down onto the ground not safe or feasible, you can do this drill lying on the couch with your feet up on the arms of the couch, or in bed if you could get yourself in a position where you could put your feet up against the wall. At a minimum, even in a hospital bed, you can do this just having your knees bent and your feet on the hospital bed. So there's really no wrong place to do this. It's just going to be a matter of adjusting to you, where you're at in your journey. The whole idea is that what we're trying to start to do is to coordinate again the muscles of inhalation and exhalation, the muscles that help to stabilize our trunk that have gotten really disconnected usually during pregnancy. And also this is going to help us with the healing process, whether it's from a C-section scar or some tearing that you might have had, because the way that we breathe actually can really encourage the healing of our bodies via the lymphatic system, which is a main part of our immune system response. And that is really aided by not only moving our body, because it moves with our skeletal muscle movement and contraction, but also via our breathing, because a lot of our lymphatic fluid has to go up through a duct in our diaphragm. And our diaphragm is the top of our intrinsic core. It's a balloon-shaped muscle underneath our ribs. And y'all who have had babies know that that diaphragm has gotten stuck up. Sometimes it feels like it's gotten stuck up in our throat. So what we're mainly going to look at trying to do is helping those lower ribs come down a little bit so that diaphragm can be in a more optimal position to descend downwards, which is its job. And its partner in crime are our pelvic floor muscles. And I'm sure you know that your pelvic floor muscles have been altered, shall we say, at a minimum. Whatever kind of birth you had, there have been changes to those pelvic floor muscles. So what we're going to work on trying to do is to get the diaphragm and our pelvic floor muscles to work as a team again. So on the inhale, we're going to be looking at trying to allow our diaphragm to come downwards along with our pelvic floor muscles. And then conversely, as we exhale, our pelvic floor muscles and our abdominals are going to contract in and up. So we're just going to work on trying to get a little bit connected to those muscles again. And as you first begin this, that may seem impossible. You may feel very little connection. You may have some numbness still, whether it's in your abdomen or your pelvic floor area. So if nothing else, it's just getting you mentally thinking about the fact that as you inhale, we want these ribs to come down a little bit so that they can expand better out to the sides, as opposed to coming out and up as we inhale. And then conversely, as we exhale, trying to allow those pelvic floor muscles to come in and up and our abdominals to contract as a team, because that's the whole thing. These all are members of our intrinsic core team. None of these muscles work in isolation. So if your OB maybe has suggested doing Kegels, I would counter that doing this, where we're trying to coordinate these muscles together, is going to get you a lot more bang for your buck. Additionally, if you have access to a pelvic floor physical therapist, even better, to get some one-on-one individualized assessment, because what I'm talking about today is going to be very general ideas. but a pelvic floor PT could help you get a little bit more specific to your particular healing process that you're going through. So if, again, you can get yourself down onto the floor, that's great. If not, get your feet up on a chair, on the arms of a couch, or feet up against the wall in bed. But the ideal position, as you will start to eventually see your baby, will get into, it will be this. But for now, we're going to support our body by putting, I'm going to move this forward so you can see there's a chair. I'm putting my heels on the chair. My knees are bent at 90. My hips are bent at 90. If you feel a lot of neck tension, you could put a rolled up towel or small pillow under your neck to support your neck here. What I want you to imagine is that you are trying to not completely, but almost flatten your low back onto the floor so that you're not arching through your low back. That's going to help you to allow these ribs to start to come down a little bit and the hips to start to be a little bit more even so they're not so tilted forward. I want you to imagine your neck is nice and long, your chin is tucked back a little bit so we're not here in a chin up position. I want you to imagine your chest is staying nice and wide and these lower ribs on the front. I want you to start to just imagine, and again, you may not feel that you can do this at all, but just start picturing that those ribs are starting to pull down, like they're going down towards your pelvis, because ultimately we want our pelvis and our rib cage, the front of our ribs, to be kind of stacked on top of each other. And Lord knows that is not where they were at the end of pregnancy. So again, be patient, be kind to yourself. This is going to be a process, okay? As you inhale, I want you to imagine a balloon from underneath these lower ribs that ends at your pelvic floor muscles, and it wraps around from the back to the front. As you inhale, I want you to just start to picture and imagine that that balloon is inflating in 360 degrees from the front to the sides to the back evenly. And additionally, your pelvic floor muscles are also relaxing and extending downwards on that inhale. And then as you exhale, I want you to imagine doing that Kegel, or pulling slightly, gently pulling those pelvic floor muscles in and up while simultaneously starting to connect and contract your abdominals. So inhale, fill that balloon. Exhale. You'll notice I'm exhaling on a S, and that's to allow me to feel a little bit additional connection to the abdominals. If you centralize your breath with a S or a sh, you will probably feel a little bit more connection to these abdominals. If you start and you have no idea, am I feeling this balloon at all? Is anything happening? Start putting your hands on your belly. If you have a C-section scar, if you feel comfortable and you've been given permission to touch it, put your hands down on that C-section scar and give a little bit of tactile cueing to start just gently reconnecting to the muscles there. And you may be very, very numb there, and that's completely normal. Or maybe for you, you just notice that your ribs are just completely stuck up. Maybe just put your hands here and just encourage and just kind of try and tell your brain to allow these muscles, these ribs to come down just a little bit. Maybe for you, you have no connection to your pelvic floor muscles. It feels like your insides are about to fall out. That's also completely normal, especially if you've had a lot of tearing. Just very gently, in that case, on the exhale, just start to picture, there's lots of images that are put out there, but some of them that may work for you is imagine that you have a little penny or a bean that's in your vagina that as you exhale, you're trying to pull it in and up. Some people say, imagine that your pelvic floor muscles are an elevator, that as you inhale, you're trying to allow the elevator to come down a few floors, and then as you exhale, imagine the elevator is coming back up. So whatever works for you, whatever image works in your head, but the idea is that starting in this supine 90-90 position is a really, really safe place to start to find connection again to those muscles. And this is going to be just the first step. And then as you progress, I can send you more options for further positions and drills that might help you along in your process. But give this one a try. And again, I only want you to do this in a position that feels safe to you. If you need some assistance getting up and down off the floor, then ask for help if you have access to people who can help you. Know that whatever it is that you are doing, you're doing your best. If you are full of joy and happiness, that's great. If you are full of depression and sadness, that's totally normal too. Please feel free to reach out, whether it's to me or anyone you trust, to talk through your feelings. And if it continues, please don't be afraid to reach out to your doctor that you might need some additional help. I firmly believe that postpartum depression is much more common than gets talked about. So I suffered from it myself, and so I'm very, very open about it, and want that any new mom to feel that they're not alone, whatever way that you're feeling. So you're doing the best you can for your babe, and you're figuring it out. So try and be kind to yourself as much as possible, and take good care. Okay,